Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dheeraj Kumar from TechFab India. Before we start the session, I would like to request everyone to keep their mics in mute so that we can proceed through the session without any disturbance or hindrance. And regarding all your queries or doubts throughout this session, I would request everyone to note down all your queries. You can send those queries either through the chat box of this meeting. Otherwise, you can write to us to our email IDs. I will display the email IDs at the end of the session. You can write to us all your queries to the email IDs. We will personally revert back to you with all your clarifications. So to start with, for the today's webinar session, I would like to first thank everyone who have registered to the session. And it was really a very good response what we have received for the webinar on GeoGrid reinforced flexible payments. That is with reference to IRC SP 59. On behalf of TechFab India, so to start with about the introduction of TechFab, which was started in year 2003 with a dream to give India world-class geosynthetic products with indigenous manufacturing, with all the types of geosynthetics like geogrids, geocells, geotextiles, and all other types of geosynthetics which will be manufactured under one roof. So we have rapidly grown from there to become the largest manufacturer of geosynthetics today in India to serve the needs of the infrastructure development. And I am proud to say that TechFab India has been awarded as the best geosynthetics manufacturer of the year 2018. And this circular, which I am shown here, is a screenshot of a circular which was issued by MORTH, where TechFab India has been mentioned as the leading manufacturer of all the geosynthetic products in India. So I'd like to just remind that we have the international presence. We are exporting all the geosynthetic materials abroad to 35 countries, and our geosynthetic products are approved by ASTO and NTPEP globally. So to proceed with today's topic, that is GeoGrid reinforced flexible payments with reference to IRC SP 59. This IRC SP 59 is the guidelines for use of geosynthetics in road pavements and associated works. So here, though we are exclusively discussing about the GeoGrid reinforced payments, I will just give a brief and explain the mechanism of different types of functions of geosynthetics which can be used in road pavements or embankments. And then we will proceed with the exclusive design for GeoGrid reinforced pavements. To start with the functions of geosynthetics, first is the separation function, which is when you have two kinds of a soil. For example, if you have clay soil and a good quality embankment fill, which you will be filling on the clay soil. There is an every chance that these two soils get mixed over a period of time, and it may alter the performance of the embankment or the pavement. So to prevent that, there can be a geotextile which can be laid between the two layers. This is the geotextile which can be laid between the good quality and a bad quality soil, which will prevent the intermixing of these two soils. And this can be done by non-woven geotextile. Next is a drainage. Drainage is collection of water, subsurface water, and discharging it into the desired destination. So that is the drainage function, and this drainage function is served by drainage composite. And next is filtration. Similar to separation, in the non-woven geotextile also performs the filtration function. That is, it will allow the water to pass through and it will retain the soil particles. That is, as it is preventing the two soils to mix, it is also it is not preventing the water to pass through from different layers. That means the water will pass and soil will be retained. Next is puncture prevention. This is also through geotextile, which has certain puncture resistance to prevent it from the stones or the aggregates that is coming above it. And next is the reinforcement. This reinforcement is of different types. Like you have a reinforced embankment, reinforced soil wall, and then now we are talking about the reinforced pavement. There are different types of reinforcement, that is geogrids or geocells. In geogrids itself, there are different types of geogrids like uniaxial geogrid or biaxial geogrid. which can be used for the reinforcement function for different applications. And next is the barrier. Barrier is prevention of transmission of any kind of material, may it be the soil or water. In this case of separation or filtration, you are allowing the water to pass through, but in case of barrier, even the water will not be passed. That is, especially in case of capillary rise issues, you use a geomembrane to prevent the capillary rise and prevent the water to pass through. When we talk about geosynthetics in pavements, especially these geosynthetic solutions are well established with all codal provisions, and they are used as an alternative to conventional solutions. And these are the major objective of using this solution is to optimize the cost of a project and to reduce the usage of natural resources like aggregates or good quality aggregates. Now, when we talk about basic applications of geosynthetics in pavements, to start from the bottom, that is subgrade separation and stabilization. Next is the base reinforcement, that is the reinforcing base or the base layers of the pavement. Next is the overlay stress absorption, that is the reinforcement which we use in the overlays in the bituminous layers to prevent the reflective cracking. Next is the subsurface drainage, that is drainage to be provided in the pavement layers or in the embankment of the road to collect the subsurface water and discharge it out. I'll explain all these applications one by one in a slide. To start with separation and filtration function, as I said earlier, when you have a two soils, that is one is the embankment fill, which we consider it as a good quality soil, and a clay, maybe a black cotton soil, where we do not want to mix these two soils, because above this we are building an embankment, and over a period of time, if these two soils get mixed, the properties of your embankment fill itself will change, and that may alter the performance or the stability of your embankment. So in order to prevent that, when we lay a non-woven geotextile separation layer or a filtration layer, this layer will prevent the mixing of two soils, and this will allow the water to pass through between the two layers, with which what happens is your pore water pressure will not be developed at any layer of the embankment or the ground, and your soils are also not getting mixed. So this is how your separation and filtration function will perform. Below is the picture of one of the project where a non-woven geotextile is currently being used. This is the project which is under execution now, for where your geotextile is being used to separate and filter before laying the embankment fill. Next is the ground improvement. Here I am talking about ground improvement with geocell. So this geocell, this is the photograph of a geocell, which is a honeycomb structure in the form of cells, in which you will fill the geocell with the soil or an aggregate, and the soil or aggregate in the cells will have the confining effect from all the sides, as it is shown in the animation. So when your load is coming from the superstructure or from the traffic vehicles, these loads will be transferred onto the geocell, which is in the embankment at a particular angle. So when it reaches the geocell, this geocell, due to its confining pressure and its stresses developed laterally, this will act as a beam, and it will transfer the loads to the wider areas, with which when we reach the ground level, there will be minimized pressures on the existing poor ground. That means there is a difference between the loads that is coming onto the ground with geocell and without geocell. So this is how your geocell is minimizing the pressures or the loads coming onto the poor ground. Next is the subsurface drainage. This is conventionally we use gravel or the sand as drainage medium in the embankment, or in case of pavements, it is your GSB layer will act as a drainage layer. Now, when we talk about the alternate solution, it is a drainage composite which will have two sides non-woven geotextile. The same geotextile which I was telling about in separation or filtration functions. There will be two geotextiles from bottom and up, and in between there will be a drainage core. So through this geotextile, your water will pass and it will be collected into this core, and this core will help in discharging your water to the desired discharge points. This is how your drainage composite will function. This water can be collected from the top or from the bottom when in capillary rise situations. So this is the image of one of the project in Northeast where the drainage composite has been used in the road pavements, and this was especially very high rainfall area where the infiltration rate was very high in case of the road. The next function is the overlay stabilization. The overlay stabilization, as I said, is you are using an asphalt interlayer composite which is made up of glass fibers at the overlay location. That is, when you have a old pavement which is already distressed and you need to lay a new layer of overlay, over a period of time what happens is the cracks which are already there in the old pavement, due to the mechanism of reflective cracking, these cracks will propagate up, and the overlay which you lay will be of no use after some time. So to prevent this reflective cracking, if you lay an interlayer with asphalt interlayer composite which is made up of glass fibers, this layer will prevent the propagation of cracks to the upper layers, and with this your life of the overlay will be increased. This is especially useful in case of road maintenance works, because in case of road maintenance, for example, let us say a contractor is having a maintenance of road for like 20 years maybe, and during that 20 years if a contractor conventionally has to do the overlay maybe for 4 or 5 times, with the use of this interlayer he can minimize the number of overlays and reduce the maintenance cost. So this is how your interlayer will be useful in case of the maintenance cost minimization, though it will not have direct cost benefit. That is, with the use of this interlayer you will not be able to save the thickness of overlays or the bituminous layers. The only saving will be the maintenance. Now moving ahead to the base reinforcement in the flexible pavements using the biaxial geogrids, which is the topic of ours for today. Regarding the other applications, if you have any queries, we will discuss in detail, as the topic of today's session is exclusively for base reinforcement using a geogrid. Now, when we talk about geogrid reinforced flexible pavements, these solutions are in line with the initiatives of MORTH and NHAI through their circulars to adopt the reinforced pavements, which is to minimize the usage of natural aggregates and through this to reduce the carbon footprint on the environment. And these geogrid reinforced flexible pavements are as per the provisions of section 8.1 of IRC 37 2018, the latest guidelines of IRC 37. And in continuation to IRC 37, the detailed design methodology and the applications of geosynthetics in road pavements are specified in IRC SP 59 also. And these two codes are the latest guidelines which are released in 2018 and 2019. And as I said, there are many types of geogrids like uniaxial geogrid or biaxial geogrid. Even in biaxial geogrid, you have extruded geogrids and etc. etc. Now, why we use PP biaxial extruded geogrid for the pavement applications is the unique structure that allows the grid to get a good grip on the aggregate particles and results in effective mechanical interlock. So if you see here, these are the extrusions or the junctions which you have, and when your aggregates interlock into these apertures, they provide the thrust onto these ribs, and through these ribs the stresses are coming on neutralizing at these junctions. So this is how your geogrid will improve the stiffness of your aggregate layer, and when your stiffness is increasing in the aggregate layer, automatically your modulus value of that particular layer, that is the strength of that particular layer, will get improved, and the improved strength we will use to analyze the pavement. So when we talk about the benefits of PP biaxial geogrids in pavements, we have three kinds of benefits. That is three alternatives we can see in the pavements. One is reduction of thickness, that is when you have a same kind of situations like as a conventional pavements, you can reduce the thickness of your pavement layers, that is the either the base layers or the TBM layer, and get the direct cost benefit of the reinforced pavement. Second is increasing the design life. This is a case, for example, in the initial stage of the project, you have analyzed the traffic to be maybe 50 MSA loading of traffic onto the road pavement. And when the time passes by and by the time the contractor executes the work, the loading gets increased by 75 MSA due to various reasons. So during that time, conventionally what contractors or the consultants have to do is increase the thickness of pavement and make it suitable for 75 MSA instead of the older 50 MSA. During that time, there is an alternative that using the PP biaxial geogrids, as you are improving the strengths of your pavement layers, automatically your design, rutting and fatigue lives for which we design the pavements get automatically improved, and the same thickness or very minimal increase in thickness will make that pavement composition to be suitable to 75 MSA also. This is just an example I am telling how your increase in design life will be possible. Third is the use of marginal aggregate, especially where you do not get good quality aggregates, like areas like east and northeast states of our India, which are very scarce in getting good quality aggregates. At that places, you can use that marginal aggregates and make those aggregates itself to be suitable to use in the pavement, because MORTH has specified certain characteristics of aggregates to be used in the pavement layers. But when we don't get that characteristics of the aggregates, that is when you don't get the desired modulus of the aggregates that are locally available, you can improve the modulus by using a reinforcement. This is how you will get the benefit of using the marginal aggregates. Now, when we talk about the design methodology, in IRC SP 59 or the IRC 37 guidelines, they have specified two methods. One is the layer coefficient ratio method, that is the LCR method, or the modulus improvement factor method, that is the MIF method. Now in this presentation, I'll exclusively talk about the modulus improvement factor method, that is the MIF method, which is a very simple method when compared to the other LCR method. So this method is specified in IRC 37 in section 8.1. This is the extract of that section where it says that when you use the reinforced pavements as an alternative to the conventional pavement, generally what happens is in conventional pavements we use to analyze the pavements in three layers. That is, you consider bituminous layers, that is BC and DBM as one layer, GSP and WMM as one layer, and subgrade as one layer, and you consider these three layers and analyze in IIT Pave softwares to analyze the induced strains. This is how we do it in conventional pavement. But when you come to the reinforced pavement, you are including a reinforcement in any one layer, that is either base or sub-base layer. So you cannot consider both base and sub-base layers as same and design in this case, because you are improving or you are changing the characteristics of one particular layer in this case. So that is why IRC 37 or IRC SP 59 tells that in case of reinforced pavements, you need to consider four layers, that is BC plus DBM combined as one layer, WMM separately as one layer, that is base as separately as one layer, sub-base separately as one layer, and subgrade as one layer. This is how your IRC 37 recommends to use the reinforced pavements. So step-by-step procedure when we talk about the design methodology is, first step is to determine the effective CBR of the subgrade. That is, our IRC 37 recommends the procedure for determining the effective CBR. That is, you have as existing subgrade or the existing soil which is having certain CBR of the soil. Above that, you will be compacting 500 mm thick good quality soil, which will be having a CBR more than 8%. So combined CBR or the effective CBR of these two layers will be used for the design of pavement. So this is the step of determining the effective CBR. Now, once your effective CBR is determined, you will consider some trial thickness of the reinforced pavements. Basically, these pavement designs totally are based on the trial and error method. You consider certain thickness of pavement, check it for fatigue and rutting strains. If they are safe, you adopt it. If they are not safe, you improve or you increase the thickness. That is how you design the pavement. So the same way here we will consider trial thickness of reinforced pavement, and then you determine the modulus values, that is resilient modulus of each layer, that is subgrade, GSB, WMM and BC and DBM combined. As I said in the earlier slide that here we are considering individual layers, and your IRC 37 gives one formula for determining the modulus of granular layers. I'll explain that in the next slide. So after this determination of modulus values, then we use those modulus values in the IIT PAVE software, which is approved and recommended by IRC 37, and determine the permissible induced strains, that is fatigue and rutting strains, that is induced on the pavements. We will compare these induced strains with the permissible strains. There are formulas to determine the permissible strains of fatigue and rutting in the IRC codes. So if your induced strains are less than the permissible strains, that means your design pavement is safe. If they are too less, that means there is a scope that you can still optimize the thicknesses of pavement layers, either reducing the thickness of base subbase layers or the DBM layer. If the induced strains are higher than the permissible strains, then that means your design section is not safe and you need to increase the thickness to make it safe. So this is an iteration process. Now I have told about determination of MR values. So when we talk about the resilient modulus values, that is the strength characteristic of each layer of pavement, starting from the subgrade, depending on the effective CBR of the subgrade, we will determine the MR value. And then when we talk about the resilient modulus of GSB, that is the layer above the subgrade, this is the formula that your IRC 37 gives, which is dependent on the thickness of your GSB and the MR of your underlying layer, that is the subgrade layer. With this, you will determine the resilient modulus of GSB. Now, when we talk about the WMM, the same formula will apply, and here H will be the thickness of your WMM layer, and MR will be the MR of support, that is the supporting layer. Here if we see, the supporting layer is GSB only, but you should not take the GSB directly, the MR of GSB directly. Instead, you should evaluate the effective CBR, effective MR of this GSB and the subgrade soil. This is because the stresses that are induced onto the WMM layer will be transferred to the subgrade also. So to evaluate the strength, you should not consider only GSB as the support for WMM. Your subgrade is also the support. So with this, you will determine the MR of support first, which is the effective of your GSB and subgrade, and using this MR you will determine the MR of WMM. Till now it is the same conventional process. Now here, when we are including a geogrid, there will be an improvement in strength. So how that improvement is included is, you have a modulus improvement factor for each manufacturer's geogrid. Like for example, TechFab has a particular MIF factor which is already determined by IITs, and this MIF factor will vary depending on the CBR of subgrade. For example, if your CBR is varying, your MIF also will vary. It is not like for 6% CBR also you use the same MIF, or for 4% CBR also you use the same MIF. It is not like that. The MIF value varies with the CBR of the subgrade soil. So accordingly, you use a particular MIF value of GeoGrid and multiply this MIF factor with the MR of WMM, that is resilient modulus of WMM, and this is the improved resilient modulus of WMM. Now this is the value you use in the IIT-PAVE analysis as a strength or the modulus of WMM layer, and using this value you will analyze the pavement, not the conventional resilient modulus. So this is how you determine the resilient modulus of the reinforced pavement layers, and this is the only crucial step which is different from the conventional design of the pavement. So this is a summary of a flexible pavement which is reinforced with GeoGrid. Now here I am showing two cases. One is 60 MSA million standard axle loading and 100 MSA loading, and this summary is for effective subgrade CBR of 6%. And with VG40 bitumen, which is having VA and VB of 3.5 and 11.5. These are the standard values which are given in IRC 37, and this needs to be revised if a project specific case there are different values. So here if we see in both the cases, by using a GeoGrid and improving the modulus value of your base layer, we will be able to optimize 50 mm thickness of WMM and 20 mm thickness of DBM in both the cases. And this is a significant reduction in the thickness, and this is a direct cost saving for a person who is executing the project. When we talk about the cost comparison, in this particular case, on an average, you will be able to save directly the 10% cost of your pavement. And this cost saving will be further improved if your CBR is going down. That means when your CBR is going down, your improvement factors are getting high. That means when you are getting higher improvement factors, your cost savings will go further high, because at very low CBRs, conventional thickness of your pavement is very high, and that is the reason as your CBR goes down, you will have higher savings. So here I am not talking about the cost analysis, because this cost analysis varies for each project depending on the cost of your pavement layers and the location of the project. So if any particular project a cost analysis needs to be done, you can just come back to us. We will provide you the designs for this GeoGrid reinforced pavements, and you can analyze with your cost of that particular project. Now when we talk about the compliance of this biaxial geogrids, the technical specifications of these geogrids, that is for mechanical and endurance properties, are specified in section 707 of MORTH, that is table 700-7 of MORTH specifications. And the same table is also given in IRC SP 59, and this is the extract of IRC SP 59 which I have placed here. And the same table is there in MORTH also. If we see here, the predominant factors in this table are the tensile strengths at 2% and 5% strains. Generally, in case of regular geogrid reinforcements, you consider the ultimate tensile strength or the long-term design strength of your reinforcement. But in this case, as you need the more stiffer geogrids, the predominant factors are the strengths at very low strains, that is 2% and 5% strains. And next is the junction efficiency of the extruded geogrids. So when we talk about junction efficiency of extruded geogrids, as I said, these are the junctions. Your MORTH or IRC tells that these junctions should have 90%, this is the minimum, 90% strength of your ribs, that is the tensile strength of your geogrid, and which your conventional geogrids that are used in reinforced soil walls or embankment stabilizations, they do not have this junction efficiency, because their function in that particular application is different from what is compared to the pavement reinforcement. And next is the ultraviolet stability, which is one of the endurance properties of the geogrid. And sometimes what happens is when we are using or incorporating this solution in DPR stage itself, in case of consultants who are preparing the DPRs, there will be requirement of SORs which are supporting the geogrids, so that the same can be incorporated in the DPRs. So in that case also, this particular geogrid, that is biaxial geogrids, are included in Maharashtra SOR and Delhi schedule of rates. These are the extracts of that particular item from Maharashtra SOR and CPWD SOR of Delhi. Regarding the product testing, Tech5 India's products are in-house tested with GuiLab and NTPP accreditation of all our laboratories with ISO 9001 2015 certification. And apart from this, we have also tested our products at various IITs, Bombay Textile Research Association in Mumbai, and for the export purpose, we have the accreditations from TRI from USA, BTDG from UK, and BICS from UK. These are our product certifications which we have for the technical specification of the product. And when we go to the installation procedure of the geogrids in pavements, first is unrolling of your biaxial geogrids. These geogrids comes in rolls. First step is to unroll at the desired location of as per the markings. And second is when you are unrolling the adjacent rolls of the geogrid, because these geogrids will come in approximately 4-meter width rolls, that is, which will cover 1 lane width, and accordingly you will lay the adjacent rolls. When you are laying the adjacent rolls, you need to ensure a certain overlap for this geogrid. So this overlap is 100 to 150 mm, what you need to maintain. And once this geogrids are unrolled, we'll start dumping the fill material on the geogrid, and that dumper material will then be spread and compacted as per the desired thickness. This is the installation procedure for the geogrids. Here you do not need any specialized equipments or machineries to install these geogrids. It's the regular machineries or equipments what you use at the pavement construction. And when we talk about Tech5 India's credentials, below are just few projects which I have listed, which has the large quantums. That is, we have done the construction of roads in Amravati, where we have supplied around 5 lakh square meters of geogrids. And we are the technology partners for the road constructed recently under PWD Assam and PMGSY Karnataka, where we are partnering with the department and the contractors to give them the techno-commercial assistance and the supply of product. And more than 10 lakh square meters of biaxial geogrids we have supplied last year in various highway projects in Gujarat itself. And apart from these, there are other projects where Tech5 India has totally supplied around 30 lakh square meters of geogrid for various state, national highways and PMGSY routes. And this has drastically improved after the publishment of your IRC codes like IRC 37 or IRC SP 59. So these are some of the site photographs of Amravati project, which I have just now discussed. This is the photograph of site before construction. Here you can see it is a purely black cotton soil, that is a very weak soil underlying the pavement, which was excavated to the desired levels of the pavement. And these are the rolls of the geogrid. Here, as the objective was to separate the layers also, they have used the geotextile also apart from the geogrid. This geotextile was used as a separation and filtration layer. So this is unrolling geogrid. This is the overlaps for the adjacent rolls, and then the dumping process, then spreading and compaction of your aggregate layers. To conclude, the reinforced flexible pavements are technically superior and economical when compared to the other conventional flexible payments. These geogrids reinforced flexible payments comply to the initiatives of more than NHAI towards minimizing use of natural aggregates and reducing the carbon footprint on the environment. The design methodologies and the material specifications are included in IRC and MOD standards and various SORs also. TechFab's PP biaxial geogrids, the improvement factors, which is the most crucial thing in the design of reinforced pavements, have been certified by IIT, and the technical parameters of the particular geogrid have been certified by Bombay Textile Research Association, that is PITRA. And TechFab India, complying to Make in India initiative of Government of India, we manufacture all the geosynthetic products from the geo textile to the geogrid, geocells, etc. in India only under one roof, with the highest manufacturing capacities in order to supply huge quantities in very short period of time as per the project requirements. And we are having the ISO 9001:2015 royalty certification, and all our manufacturing and testing labs are NABL and GuiLab certifications. The engineering and techno-commercial assistance to all the stakeholders, right from the inception of the project to the completion of the project, we will be providing to all the stakeholders. So this is regarding the geogrid reinforced flexible payments from our end. And as I said earlier, for all your queries through this session regarding any applications, because I have discussed only about the reinforced payments. Apart from that, I have just briefed about the ground improvement, separation function, overlay stabilization, and the drainage, subsurface drainage. So if you have any query regarding any of the application, you can contact us through these email IDs and phone numbers. We will revert back to you with all your clarifications. And also any project specific discussions are also welcome. We will be discussing with you through one-to-one meetings. Thank you very much. With this, I end this session, and I thank all the participants who have registered and participated in this session.